Mr. Dave. How are you?
I'm well, and you? So you're going with the blonde again, huh?
Yes, I really love the pink hair, but it's a lot of upkeep. It- Basically, you have to, shampoo with pink shampoo every single week. And then the beauty supply would run out and then they would be like, sorry, we're out. I'm like, calling all over the place and going to Amazon to get my pink shampoo. So,
You learn something new every day. I had no idea.
yeah, well, you have to bleach the hair and then do the pink on top of the bleach. So it's, uh, double the upkeep. At least the bleach is only once a month.
How's your day been? What you got going on today?
Oh, well, as you might be able to tell, I'm at Paramount Studios with my son. Don't know if you know, he's on a Nickelodeon sitcom called Side Hustle
Okay.
um, with Jules LeBlanc and Jaden Bartels. And he plays their best friend Munchie. And this is Isaiah's first gig since the family cruise. So now I have to be momager on top of everything else. So 2 or 3 days a week I'm here with him, and then I split it with his older sister who makes a nice little paycheck from her mommy for being her brother's guardian.
How old is Isaiah?
He's 15.
So he's getting in the middle of it.
Yes, he is, but he's doing great. My son was born, he came out of the womb with that, crazy personality like his dad's, with that tendency to be over dramatic and hyper excited, and it's paying off. So I'm happy for him. He said when he was little he wanted to be a stunt man. So he does get to do his own stunts on this show. So it's a lot of fun.
Gets to eat his own vegetables.
Oh, well, he gets to fall off the mountain. I don't know about.
I interrupted. So again, we don't know each other. Thanks for the time. We're going to just sit and chat for about 40 minutes.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to get a little bit of a heads up. You're at Paramount. How long have they been post-COVID? Have they been doing this now for 2 months? Or they just started it up? What's it been like?
Well, the show started pre-COVID, and we got about 2 or 3 weeks of production, kind of pre-production going, and then we were shut down. So we came back in September. So September, October, and they aired the first episode in November. And we now have a total of 26 episodes, so almost like a double season, because we started out with 13.
Right.
And then they added 5, and then they added 5, and then, so we got, I think, about 4 more weeks, and then we're taking a little break, and then probably not a long break. Probably we'll be back in production before fall.
So I think if Paramount had a room that was for people who grew up in Gary, Indiana, that would not be a room with a lot of people.
No, Gary has some great talent that came out of it, but we're all kind of spread out. So we've got the Jacksons, we've got William Marshall, who played Blackula. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Blackula, but William Marshall was a theater trained actor and went to, I think, Roosevelt High School in Gary, Indiana. And then, what's the guy's name?
Mellencamp's from Gary, Indiana.
I don't think he's from Gary. I think he's from another part of Indiana. And then remember the black guy who played Hawk on Spencer for Hire?
I can see the face, but yeah, I don't remember the name.
But it'll come to me, but he also is from Gary.
So tell me the story about how the Jackson 5 played your prom.
I wish I could say that had happened. Unfortunately, Michael and the crew departed from Indiana by the time I was in first grade. So I was in, my first grade classroom, and ABC was on the radio. Dancing Machine, I Want You Back, all those early hits marked my first, second, and third grade year. So Yeah, and Michael, I think was about 10 years older than me. So.
Which one did you have, the dreams about? Was it
Oh,
Tito?
definitely Michael.
It was
Definitely.
Michael.
Yeah, because he is the youngest and the cutest. I kind of like Jermaine too, but he was too old for me.
All right, so let's just go through some stuff. Your parents, what did they do?
Wow. My mother was a homemaker until my biological father passed away suddenly in a car accident. And then she went to work for Equitable Financial Services. So she was the first Black and female agent in the company in 1972. And she was also a singer. She was opera trained. And so she'd sing and do a few gigs on the weekends, sing at church, all that kind of stuff. And then both my biological father and my stepfather were both musicians. And so music just ran in the family, My stepdad was a jazz musician. He played with the Chicago Musicians Union and got to sit in with Ramsey Lewis and Cannonball Adderley and Nancy Wilson. And he just has some really great stories. And he was an attorney by day, but every weekend, he really was a kick-ass trombonist. And he, at one time, was signed to a record deal with RCA, with the jazz quintet. And I guess that didn't, quite pan out. And he finished law school, but he had a car full of gear and a tux. And he played live jazz out in Chicago every weekend for the entire time he and my mother were married. So probably 6 to 8 years. And I think he continued to play even after that until his health got bad.
Interracial couple, correct?
Yes.
Not the easiest thing to be in the mid 60s.
Not at all. In fact, looking at my history books, interracial marriage was still illegal in many parts of the country the year I was born. So, yeah, it was not, I think I knew one or two other interracial families in Gary during the time I grew up. So we were definitely very unusual. I just remember getting stared at a lot. People would stare at us and we'd go in restaurants and they'd all stare, and go to Disneyland and they'd stare. And so I got used to being stared at. So I guess it got me ready to be married to Terry.
And do I have this right? You're a Christmas Eve baby.
I am.
So
I joke, me and Jesus are real tight.
Are you in the category of I got more presents because I was born on Christmas Eve? Or are you in the category of I got less presents because I was born on Christmas Eve?
Well, it depends, because when I was a kid, I got less presents. As an adult, I will tell you that my precious, precious husband, the first year he made some real money as an actor, he made sure to buy me 2 really awesome gifts every year. So the first year, I think this was the year he got White Chicks. He got me my first ever brand new car.
What kind?
It was a white Yukon Denali,
Nice.
right up, fresh off the line. Cream interior, moonroof, all the works. And I drove that car for probably 3 or 4 years. And he's like, "Oh, we need a black car with tinted windows." So he's like, "You need a better car." I'm like, "No, I think you want the black car with the tinted windows." So I don't have that car anymore, but he bought me the car. And then, just to be extra sweet, I came home, I think it was probably the day after my birthday. We're heading into New Year's Eve. And I opened this box and there's a teddy bear. And I was like, "Oh, this is cute." And we kind of have this nickname, like everyone in our family is a bear. So Terry Bear, Becky Bear, it just became this thing, And I was about to, start to get a little too like, why is this man buying me a teddy bear? And then my daughter, Naomi, who was probably 17 at the time, she said, "Oh, Mommy, look, he has earrings." And there were 1-carat diamond earrings on the teddy bear. I went, oh, I almost fainted. My daughter cried and my husband just hugged me and he said, I want to make it up to you that you always got gypped on your birthday. So I'm always going to make sure you have a birthday and a Christmas present. And he really has. It's always like, I have a Yamaha grand piano in my foyer that is a replica of the one I played when I was a kid, because I had a Yamaha at home. And that was one Christmas he got me the Yamaha. I had a couple other cars since then. Some expensive stuff like a Gucci this or a Louis Vuitton that, that kind of thing. But so now I don't feel deprived,
Do you still have the crown for being Miss Garrett?
I wish I did. I think it got destroyed in storage. When I went off to college, some of that stuff that was kind of precious, I left at home. And then throughout all the moving, I seem to recall that several things were water damaged, or, in the Midwest, we all have basements.
Right.
So, which are prone to leaking. And I seem to recall many of my items got damaged. So I have the plaque, but not the crown.
So as we delve into you a little bit, and again, chime in on things we want to talk about or things that I might not know about. But
Sure.
When did you decide just to be Mrs. Everybody? I mean, we're doing acting, we're doing singing. It seems like when a project comes across that you have an interest in, you got no problems doing it, regardless of what you were doing previously.
Well, what you're looking at is a displaced housewife. Okay. I was a theater major. So all I did was perform. I started playing piano at about 9. I started directing choirs at about 13. Playing in the church, playing in bands. I was in an all-girl band, did a whole lot of musical theater, and went to college to do that. And my big life goal was to play Anita in West Side Story and to win a Tony for playing Anita in the revival.
You wanted to be Rita Moreno.
Yes, because I was a singer dancer. And I do play piano. I'm a pretty good piano player. I think there are a lot of people better than me, but I play well enough that I accompany myself. I played in the church, and I utilize it in my songwriting. And so my dream was to be like a triple threat, but in that New York state of mind, kind of Broadway baby. And I really had no intention of making records. And I had no intention of doing television or film because I love the live audience experience. That's kind of the way I was trying to go. And I got pregnant when I was in college with my little girl. So I kind of had a decision to settle in my heart, like, do I want to make this baby go on the road with me? Or do I kind of want to try and provide what might be better for her than for me? So I took a little bit of a nosedive, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to go to beauty school, finish my degree, see what I can do to make a living. And then we'll see about mommy's big dream, I had considered all the other options. None of the other options seemed right for me. And it was during that time that I was finishing school, playing in the church in my college town, rather, that I met my husband. And I always wanted to be married. I just didn't plan on getting married so young. But when I saw Terry, I don't know if I'd say it was love at first sight, but there was like a kismet. There was like a sense of something about the two of us together. It wasn't immediately romantic, but all I can say is I kept seeing this young, excited, energetic, overly muscular college kid as my partner. He was like my friend. He kind of almost got stuck in the friend zone, I say all the time. But something just began to blossom, and I thought about all the things that I had prayed for and I asked for and I wished for. And I started to think, this kid has all the qualities that I love. He loves children. He was great with my daughter. He loved me. We loved the same things, even though he was an art and football major. He also used to break dance, and he tried his hand at being a rapper, So we had this love for the arts, and kind of all those common things were on my checklist, And I went, I think this is my life. I think I'm supposed to be with this guy. So
who proposed to who?
That's really an awkward story, how we had a conversation one day where I was really grilling him about his intentions, because we were dating, but we were dating in the church way. So we were celibate, and we were doing what they call courting. So checking each other out, but not being too serious. And I started to have dreams about him, and I would see us in the future with children. I saw us living in California. I do have a little bit of what we call a prophetic gift in the church. And so I've seen a lot of things before they happen. And while I was having these dreams, I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. So I asked him, well, what's this going to be? Do you like me? Because
check. Do you like me? Do you like me? Check.
Yeah.
And it's back.
Check the box, right? And he looked at me very earnestly, and he just looked down at the floor. He said, I don't know how to say this, but I think I'm supposed to marry you. And I said, really? I said, I think you're right. And he just said, really? Really? And he just grabbed me and swung me around. And that was the first time we kissed, was that day.
Wow.
Because I wasn't trying to end up with another baby, if you get my drift. So I was like, you stay there till I know you're the one, And so we talked, we continued to court. We enrolled in a young couples engagement course.
You kissed a little more.
Yeah. And we got married a year later.
Wow.
We were 23 and 21. And his hopes were to go pro, even though they were very high hopes. Terry was a real long shot for the NFL with the college he was attending. And there was just no love coming from the press, no love coming from the scouts. It really looked like a pipe dream. And I think it was the end of his senior year. It had to have been May. We had a conversation. What are we going to do if you don't get drafted? He's like, well, I don't know, but I'm not staying here, And about a week after his final, I think it's, how they have a banquet, sports banquet, the end of the year.
Team awards, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, team awards. He did not get one award as a senior. He was a starter. He was a team captain. He was a leading linebacker. He walked on his team, fought and scratched, and made them give him a scholarship. And he walked away from that award ceremony just disgusted. And then a week later, the combines sent him an invite. He went to the combines, and after the combines, we had 16 teams out of the 32 sent scouts or coaches to come and try him out. It was like this windfall, just suddenly, even though his school didn't seem to treat him with any respect, he made an impression at those combines. And next thing you know, we were like, we're going pro. And he went in the 11th round, which most of those people don't make the team. And lo and behold, he made the squad from the 11th round draft pick. And that began our journey. And then it was LA, DC, Green Bay, Philly, 7 teams in 7 years. I mean, it was just like, you know, I just kind of hunkered down, and by that time we had another baby. And so for me, my family was first. And I just made a decision to put what I felt was a priority in front of, this idea that I was going to be a star. And I went to the football wife parties, and I went to the games, and, I'd serve in the churches wherever we lived. I'd do music in the church. And I never felt like regretful, or I just felt like I was doing what I always dreamed of doing, but like the order was flip-flopped. Does that make sense? Yeah, because I wanted the family, but I wanted the family at like 35. So I did the family first. And when we moved to LA, by that time I'd had 3 children, had 2 more that were born in LA. And I woke up one morning, I think it was my 40th birthday. And just that voice deep within me, I say it was God talking to me, said, it's time. Time for you. And I bought gear and made a home studio. I got in shape, after baby number 5. And I started auditioning. I started working with producers on music that nobody's ever heard, and however long it was, I think it was probably 5 years, 5 or 6 years, might have been more, before I put something out.
Why did you choose to sing under a pseudonym?
You know why I did the pseudonym? Because I wanted the music to just be judged on its own merit. Because I found putting music out under my name, there's a lot of prejudice. If people view you in one light, they tend to not want to accept you in another capacity. And I found that when I did press around the music, I don't know, I felt like there was some age discrimination as well, which is very common in the music industry. I mean,
there's not a lot of 40-year-old women with 5 children on the top 20.
Not at all. But guess what, boo-boo? What you want to do is in the top 30 in the country in the R&B charts. And the first 2 singles I got radio play, I did them anonymously. Not even the radio promoter knew who I was. I had a gentleman kind of acting as the manager. And I said, I do not want them to know it's me. I said, tell them to play the record if they like the record. I even did photos like with these big hats on and a big coat, hiding my identity.
I saw the video for I Keep Holding. First of all, I mean, you've got a thing. You have an idea of what you want to look like, what you want to be, how you move, that kind of a deal, and enjoyed it. I'm guessing I know who the song was written about. Who was that song written about?
About Mr. Terry.
Okay. So this is what I don't get as a pedestrian, right? I admire it, but I don't get it. That song, I mean, I guess I'm making a joke. I mean, that's causing a divorce kind of a song. And so while you're doing that, and that you're making it public, not to pry, I'm curious about a lot of stupid things. Does he know that's coming out? Do you let him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And how does he not get more upset than I would if my wife had written a song like that?
Well, one of the things to know is I wrote that song almost 10 years before I released it. And so a lot of the music you'll hear me performing is about the marriage, or sometimes it's about like my girlfriend's marriage or my friend's situation. But if it is about me and about us, I'm the kind of person, I don't tell the story till I'm on the other side. I don't tell it while I'm going through it.
Got it.
Because I know how it's going to end. You know what I mean? So I have a song coming up that we're going to release right around the time the book comes out, which the book will be out the 15th, that is about a season we went through where we broke up. And it's a beautiful song. It's a sad song, but I wrote that song 10 years ago. So now we're on the other side. He told me to put the song out because you can talk about it when you're healed. If during that crisis we had parted ways, I could see, if we hadn't worked through whatever, because even if you break up, you have to get along, right? Because
Right.
you still have, divorced couples fight just as much as, when they're still married, because they have the kids to fight over, the child support to fight over, and all that. So you still got to heal, whether you stay together or whether you break up. In our case, we stayed together. And that's largely due to the fact that he became a better man.
Well, and you guys have been open about it, and we don't need to delve into it. I will let you know.
Right.
I don't know whenever he was on Maron, but Terry was on Mark Maron a couple years ago, and boy, did he speak lovingly of you.
That's because he knows he put me through it. My husband was a really sweet guy who had a lot of trauma. And, in the Christian faith, we believe in redemption. We believe in forgiveness. We believe that your past does not have to define your present or your future, because we believe in the power of change. So when I met my husband, he was just the sweetest, kindest guy. He was almost so nice that he was the kind of guy that girls were like, oh, you're like my brother. You know what I mean? He wasn't the guy that all the women were chasing down. And I think that's part of why I liked him, because he just was polite. He just was a good guy. And I did know that, his dad drank and had abused his mother. But I had an alcoholic step parent myself who, was violent. And again, the power of our faith is that we can overcome those kinds of things. So I think that I had complete faith that my husband could overcome whatever his childhood wounds had done to him. What I wasn't aware of was that he was like a dry drunk. So he was addicted to everything else. He was addicted to porn. He was addicted to work. He was addicted to exercise. I used to tell him, you're a little maniacal about this working out thing. I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
I'm not.
He's built like he doesn't have to work out another day in his life.
No, he's relentless about the gym. There were even some seasons of mismanagement of money because of this kind of impetuous kind of, I don't know, like get rich quick, or, that's a common thing in the hood. You're playing the numbers, you're playing the lottery because you're kind of taking this gamble on something that you think is going to blow you up and change your whole life, and rather than like calculated risk, So there were these tendencies to be addicted to excitement, adrenaline junkie, And looking back on it, I see, though he did not drink alcohol, he did not do drugs, he never hit me, he was acting out all the time. And in that acting out, he was angry with himself. So that self-hatred and that self-anger kind of spilled over to the family. So the only issues I ever had with my husband primarily were like a temper. He had a bad temper. He was impatient, overly focused on work and on succeeding. to the point where I would challenge him relentlessly about family. You know, you haven't seen the kids all week. You haven't seen the kids in a month.
Right.
You know, when you're not working, you're going on appearances and you're blah, 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 and your children are growing up without you. What the hell, you know? So those are the kind of fights we were always having, that I'm a work widow because all you care about is succeeding. And I want you to succeed, but, you know, let's balance the pie.
Right.
And after a few years of that, I was ready to leave. And we finally kind of hit that breaking point. It was 2010. 2010, we talk about in our book, was D-Day. And that, for me, that was it.
Right.
Like, not up to here, up to here. Like, I was done.
And you're 5'8", so up to here's like 6'2".
Yeah. And when I told him I was done, he just fell apart. And I just thought, well, you can fall apart. I don't give a damn because you've burned me, you know. But he came clean, you know. He sat down with me and told me some dirt he had done and told me how sorry he was, you know, told me about the porn addiction, which it may seem odd to people that I wasn't aware of that, but my husband was never home. So he didn't watch porn at home, you know, where I'd walk in on him. He's watching in the trailer at work or on location on a movie in the hotel rooms, you know. So that was like his deep, dark secret. And that just, to me, was just one more thing. That was just like icing on the cake. Okay, good. Well, I was already going to leave you. And now I know why I should. And the only thing I can say is that he really tried with everything.
All right. So, stupid question before we go to the book. Do you have a memory? Is there something as specific as a memory on when you were like, you know what? I'm not leaving.
Yes. It took about, I would say it was about 2 years in to the recovery period. We were in therapy. And this was a thing that really challenged me. After our big discussion, our big disclosure, and I'm done, don't come home. He went to rehab on his own. Like, we had a marriage counselor we would pop in and see every once in a while. And the gentleman told him, he said, this is classic, you know, sex addiction. And there are a couple places you can go. And I'm telling you, my husband, who I never saw cry during our marriage, I lost 2 children. One baby I lost at 6 months in. Never saw my husband cry. I watched my husband cry for 2 years. Just remembering the pain of his childhood, expressing remorse for things he said to me or did. Times he lost his temper, times he scared the children, times he broke his promises, you know. I never ever saw my husband that humble and that broken. And he not only did he shed all the tears, which a lot of people shed tears when they're caught, you know. A lot of men don't even shed tears. They say, well, too bad, B, you know, it's my money, I'll go get another woman. And they do, you know. But he prayed that I would give him a chance. And listen, it seemed like the universe was speaking to me everywhere I went. I would go to the car dealer to look for a new car because I was moving out.
Right.
And the guy would go, oh, aren't you Miss Cruz? Oh, yes. Oh, I just love you and your husband. You're such a great couple. And blah, blah. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he's like, you know, me and my first wife, we got divorced after 20 years. And boy, did I regret that. Man, I wish we had worked it. And this guy went on for an hour telling me about how he should have saved his first marriage. And he says, boy, you and Mr. Cruz, you have a great thing. Don't ever let go of each other. Don't ever quit, work it out, whatever. This guy didn't know anything about what I was going through. And then not only did it happen once, it happened to me multiple times in the 6 months or so after our disclosure. So that was when I said to myself, I'm going to give him a shot. I'm going to let him go through his process. He was doing a 12-step. I went with him sometimes. And every day he would just fall across the bed and grab my hands and say, don't give up on me. Please don't give up on me, Becky. He said, I love you. I love our kids. I'm going to change. And he did.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, it obviously, and again, not that anybody else really cares. We never met each other. So we're now 40 minutes into this. Here's what I'm gonna swing and miss on this one. Hopefully
Okay.
not miss. You're a very confident person.
Yeah.
You're very comfortable where you are at your place now in life.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this book is kind of like a make good of things you wanted to do, be, or say that while you were doing the mother thing full time, you didn't have the opportunity to, and now you're just spitting it all out. Am I wrong with that guess?
I give you half a point.
Okay.
I've always wanted to be an author. I have other books in my iPad. I've always wanted to share my stories because there are a lot of things I've overcome. And so the dream to be an author is certainly fulfilled with this experience. Our desire with telling the story.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Stronger Together.
Okay.
And our desire is to encourage other couples that have been through, if they've been through infidelity, if they're dealing with addiction, that in our throwaway culture, we just believe you don't always have to throw each other away. That because somebody has hurt you doesn't mean that they always will. Once a cheater, always a cheater is not always true. And if we're only defined by our last mistake, then there's no hope for any of us. We also wanted to clarify some things about what we believe. There are some other things that the fans and the public have asked of us that we, get DM'd about and that we put in the book so we could talk about. And then there was my husband's book, Manhood, where he described a lot of his shortcomings and how to be a better man. And he said the number one question he got was, what does your wife think about all this? You're telling all this stuff, and how does she feel? And when the opportunity came for us to talk about doing a book about our journey and just our love story, we got multiple offers, and the best one was with Audible, which we thought was great because we both like to talk. And this will probably not be the first book where couples air all their dirty laundry and tell all their heartbreak and talk about how they're better today than they were yesterday. But I think there's real hope. I get letters from females and males all the time asking, how did you guys overcome? How did you get through it? How do you feel about each other now? Because I find most people, if they went down the aisle together, it's not their desire to just throw their mate away. And they will often do all they can to try to save that because it meant something to them when they said it.
And for your fans that may have stumbled across this, nice to meet you, everybody. Here's how I think of things sometimes. What happened yesterday that caused you to be happy that you did not separate? What happened this week that caused you to be happy that you're still in it?
This week, my husband made me dinner.
Nice. What do you make you?
He likes to barbecue. So steak and asparagus, and I think we ordered some dessert off DoorDash or something, but he's just very kind to me. Even if it's just a kind word, or I go by the gym, because we both have a little home gym. I have a little bitty home gym. He's got a big home gym. And he's playing my music while he works out, So I know he's really a fan. He's not just patting me on the head saying, "Do your thing, honey. That's nice." He promotes me, when we release What You Want to Do. Our team said, "Hey, you guys make a TikTok, make a dance video." So we made one, and he, anything I'm doing, he supports. He puts it out to his fans, even though sometimes his fans, that's a whole nother chain of people than the kind of people who would follow me. But he's my best friend. And whether it's like the other night, I came in from ripping and running and taking meetings, and I just fell across the bed and I said, "Hug." And he just laid on my chest, and we just laid there for like 10 minutes. And I said, "Okay, honey, you can go if you want to." He said, "I don't want to go." And we just laid there. And just that touch is very therapeutic. And just that 10 minutes of us laying there like this made everything right in the world for me. Earlier, Terry would not have stopped and said, "My Becky needs a hug."
All right. So what's our next mountain? What are we climbing next?
Well, the book, and then we've got more songs coming out.
Okay.
A couple of videos, so at least we'll get some visuals on the next couple songs. And then we just opened studios. Husband's got a new production studio, really, really fabulous. And I'm launching a brand. So clothing, handbags, shoes, cosmetics, October 2021.
I mean this in a good way. You seem like a brand person.
Yeah. Well, I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I meant it as a compliment.
Because
you understand your picture, but then you also, it appears, it sounds like, you understand the peripheral of what else happens when you accomplish that smaller thing, what it grows into.
Yeah, well, I've always been a serial entrepreneur. My mother was in sales, and when I wanted to buy something, she told me to go cut some lawns or go babysit. I sold Avon, I sold Mary Kay. I worked in retail. I was a hairstylist. I've always been a part of some type of customer service. So the dream of having a clothing line or fashion or beauty line is just very natural to me. I think about providing for women what I think is missing in the marketplace, just being a consumer myself. And that's why I started my brand.
You mentioned Mary Kay. Did you ever know anybody in those pink cars that they get?
I sure did. My supervisor right above me had a pink Cadillac, honey, and she was proud of it.
You got to ride in it?
No, I did not. I saw the driveway when I went to my monthly meeting.
Well, I've enjoyed this. Again, we'll wrap it up. I do have one favor. My daughter is 14. She's my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter is 23. She's also a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. My youngest daughter's question was the following. Was there ever a project you wish Terry wasn't in? Second part, when you saw Brooklyn Nine-Nine, did you think this would be good or don't do this? So it's a two-part question for my 14-year-old.
Okay. Is there a project I did not enjoy? There were a couple. I was not crazy about Friday After Next, as you can imagine. I don't know if you saw Friday After Next.
No, sir. No, ma'am.
He plays a gangster fresh out of prison. And there's a scene where he attempts to rape Cat Williams.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's funny, it's a comedy, but
Okay.
at the time I was the choir director at a mega church of a 400 voice choir. And I was quite well known in the ministry. And my husband's coming out in this movie where he's playing a rapist. And I just remember going to the premiere thinking, oh my God, what have we gotten into, and as far as Brooklyn, when Brooklyn first approached him, he actually was the first person they cast.
Before
and they
Adam. Before Adam.
Well, after Adam.
Okay, got it.
And I think they're still working on his deal when they cast Terry.
Got it.
I mean, wanted Adam, and they actually created Terry Jeffords around Terry's talents. The drawing, the white minivan. We had a white Chrysler minivan at the time. The girls, because at the time we had all girls. And reading the script, I remember thinking this was a really awesome and perfect show for Terry. And he loved it. And he even took the part, though there were 2 or 3 other shows that were coming to him like direct offer, no audition. They offered him more money. They offered him a little back end and blah, blah, blah. And he said, nah, these other shows are not as good. Just on paper, just reading the script and laughing out loud, we both knew Brooklyn was going to be a hit.
Good for you. Unanticipated last question. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
I just mentioned how I have the 2 daughters.
Yeah.
Seem like somebody who I've never met before. I could ask you your advice on how young women do not lose themselves in their husbands when they get married.
I think it's very important to develop who you are in the years that you're in the formative years. So if your girls are preteens, that's the time to discover what you love, study music or dance or art or business, or, find out who you want to be. Because even if you decide, okay, you go to high school, you go to college, you get your degree, you get married, you have a child. You may find that once you have a child, maybe you want to stay home. It's still important to keep your gifts alive. And I personally did that through, like I said, being involved in the church and keeping my music sharp, playing the piano 3 or 4 times a week, at church, singing, songwriting. It's important to keep a sense of who you are and I have 2 kids at home now out of the 5. My son's 15, my daughter's 18. She'll be graduating next year, and then he'll be right behind her. I started working on my own dreams 10 years ago because I did not want to be that mom who, when the kids left home, I was just lost. Now, that doesn't mean I won't be sad, or I might not have a little emptiness syndrome and shed a few tears, but I have plenty to do. And I think it's just like leveraging your time. You have to, along with valuing a loving relationship, your husband doesn't want to be around you all day. You know what I mean? Even if you're the most perfectly happy romantic couple, you still need to know who you are as an individual, and once children come into play, mommy still needs to have time with her girlfriends. Mommy still needs to work out, take care of herself, and I think that today's young women, I think they have it easier than even my generation or my mother's generation. My mother in the 70s, that was one of the first eras where women were in the workplace up to almost 50%. You know, her generation before her, that was not the case, you know. And then of course I grew up always intending to be a working mother, and surprisingly made the choice to stay home, mostly because the NFL was jumping us around so much.
Right.
That it didn't make a lot of sense for me to like go take some little job that I was going to leave in 4 months or 6 months, or if he got cut then we're leaving. I was like, I'd rather be home. My babies are little. So I did that for the sake of stability for my kids. Had we played for one team for 10 or 20 years, I probably would have been more of a working mom. You know what I mean? Yeah. A what?
A mayor, a governor.
Yeah. No, probably a beauty salon owner, or I'd own a boutique or something like that. Something in the beauty and fashion lane, you know, something girly.
Rebecca, nothing but luck on the book, everything coming forward. Appreciate the time. You have yourself a good week.
Thank you, sir. You as well.